Hello again. We're going to have Mr. Ali Sayın, a founding partner of Vertigo Games. He's going to talk about recruitment processes in gaming companies and the expectations of candidates. I'd like to invite him to the floor now. Welcome, Mr. Ali. How are you? Thank you, I'm fine. How are you? You can start when you feel like it. All right, let me get started then. First of all, hello, everyone. I am the founding partner of Vertigo Games, and I'm happy to be a part of Indieway meetings. We're gonna look for an answer to the question that people ask all the time. It's gonna indicate our approach to the business and where the business is headed. Our sector is growing, and it's growing fast. In terms of HR, we may not really respond to the demands of the sector. The HR is basically falling behind at the demand of the sector, but still some people have tough time finding a job, and they don't really get a feedback. So there's a discrepancy between the two. We don't have enough people to train people, and then some recent graduates or some other people who want to change their sectors, they're complaining that they cannot really find a proper place in this sector for themselves. What matters here is, I don't really know how well I'm going to respond to this question, but I'd like to start in a general way. As Vertigo Games, it's going to be our 10th year. And beforehand, we were in technology and software sector. So it's a time that the conditions ripen for the sector. And we were dreaming about creating games anyway. And because of all these, we stepped in the gaming sector. So being in the gaming sector or in any other sector practically, it wouldn't change, our approach to the business. Very classic approach is that we should work in a field where we would like it. And this is, of course, an ideal universe, and it doesn't really happen all the time. But even if they don't show up true, my first recommendation, by the way, my recommendations would be based on my own experience. So I cannot really claim that I know the business very well, but in a humble way, I can say that the way you work, your work ethics should belong to you. It should reflect your identity. Your style, ethics, and way of working should reflect your identity. If you if you change these things based on the people that you work with or the company that you work at, well, you shouldn't really change that. You should have a work ethics that would reflect your character. Let's say the company that you're working at is not really giving you what you deserve, or the team has a radically different position on the job. This should not change what you could provide to the business, because at the end of the day, it would start like a simple habit, and they stick with you, and then you turn into the people that you criticize all the time. And this is why please structure your work ethics in line with your personality traits. And this is very important. You should plan accordingly. I'm going to share my screen now. I don't like making presentations, but like to share a photo with you. This photo, Hazal is on the left. The one on the right is also Hazal. The one on the left is a partner to our company. We'd like to make people who work with us for a long time, we want to make them partners. And the other one, the one on the right, they are also Hazal, and they did something crazy together. They had our logo made into a permanent tattoo on their hands, on their arms. I don't know why they did that, but I think, you should work at a place that you would like that much. This is very important. I hope everyone would work at a place that they would like that much. I hope we would all have that opportunity. And from that point in our sector, from the point of some gaming companies, the sector believes in permanent improvement. And I think it distinctifies itself from the other sectors with this mindset. Its gaming sector is based on having a momentum for change, and Vertigo has a similar mindset. It is based on permanent improvement. I'd like to underline something here, having a balance between the work and the life. Well, from my perspective, for example, it doesn't really reflect a realistic perspective. It looks like it's a concept. It's a concept that is designated based on a lack of love for the job. When you love the job, you can integrate your work into your life. You can establish a balance like that. And I believe that should be your approach on life and the work. That is what I expect from the people. Of course, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. There are 3 questions as far as I can see on the chat box. So I'd like to focus on your questions in this panel. For about 10 years, I am the manager of this company, and there were prior companies that I worked at. I have a prior experience. So if you shoot your questions down in the chat box, we can move forward in a more beneficial way. Let's say you want to be employed at the gaming sector, and we're going to have to make a decision on the employment. We are looking for a place where we would actualize ourselves and improve ourselves. And where would that be? Should we look into the workspace or salary or the opportunities that it provides for our personal improvement? They're all important things, important factors. The gaming sector creates mobile games or desktop games. And do we like the games that the company produces, for example? Should we step in if we don't like the games that they create? So the answers to all these questions are important. And these answers are going to shape your approach to that question. I see it a lot of time on LinkedIn and in other platforms that, in general, people, especially the young people who would be just joining the sector, offensive buildings, workspaces, and certain beautiful designs. Sometimes they're attracted by these things. If you're in sports, for example, in bodybuilding areas or the gyms they are places, they're not really places that have a lot of lights where you can get your mocha and sip your coffee. Most of the time they are in the basements, where your sweat would be mixed with your blood. So in sports, the more offensive, there's no equation that the more offensive, the better outcome that you will have. So the workspace should not cheat you. Another issue is that investment made on that workspace. Let's talk about wholesale markets. Let me specify to make it more reasonable. BIM or A101, these are, chain markets. The same product could be sold at Macro or Migros twice or triple the price, because Macro and Migros provides a better shelving, better exhibition, but they spend on that more. So you would have the same product with a higher price. So some companies do care about that, and they do that with a limited budget. And sometimes the cost cutting is made from the employees, but they invest in the workspace. You should focus on that, where the company spends the money most. Working at plazas with high rents, for example, rather than that, you can maybe choose the companies which would pay you more. You're going in to a company, let's say you applied for a position. What is their understanding of management, for example? You try and see that before you apply. I'm going to talk about what you should prepare as well, but let me talk about our approach as Vertigo Games. We are four plus partners. A lot of people spend effort in what we do, and everyone who spends a lot of effort are candidates of partnership. It's a whole different thing whether that person is junior or senior. Let's say we are in Florida, in Istanbul, and a team member wants to move in Florida, and we sometimes say that we're going to have a rental support, because being close is very important, because it would save a lot of time from the traffic. We are in greenery, for example, and we like it. So these are the opportunities that we provide, a rental support, for example. Another company could offer a private insurance. It depends. Or another company could basically try and attract you with having an office at the Bosphorus, or you can have your cafe latte. We have a coffee machine as well, but we don't have a barista for that. So, you wouldn't have everything in the same bag. You should pick according to your needs, what kind of an management understanding and what's their targets. We have what is their intended capacity. For example, for us, we're going to be maximum 20 people, and most of them are going to be our partners. We're going to have a solid, unchanging structure, and we're going to create games that are not going to be copied very easily. And we're going to respond to the demands of this sector fast. Circulation is fast in this sector. Trial periods are even tougher. Our employment process is a bit long, but you go into another company and in a short while, you may be eliminated. Why is it bad? Let's say somebody wants to change the sector. We tell that person that, okay, we accept you, but we have a trial period for 2 months. In other companies, it could be 3 or 6 months. And we need to consider all that prior hand. We're going to talk about what we should consider before placing the application, and I'd like to talk about that as well. Before placing the application, what kind of portfolio should you have, and what kind of CV should you have, and how you should choose which company to apply. Portfolio is very important, especially for the artists. You should focus on that, and you should have your own timeline in mind. In 3, 6, or 12 months, I'd like to see your changes, your improvements, basically. So the portfolio should reflect this timeline. Another point is your CV. You might have your school, or you might have your prior experience. All the activities, the club activities, your approach to events, what you have done so far, they should be involved in your CV as well. So I check you from your LinkedIn account or from the timeline that you would suggest, but this timeline should be reflected about your educational years as well. So you're placing these things at the beginning anyway. Let's say you're applying a company. We receive a lot of applications, a lot of them, and sometimes we have to eliminate talented people because our company, we have a designated capacity. So if a company rejects you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are less than enough. Of course, we all want to make money, and we want to get our place in the growing gaming sector. But bear in mind that every company has a certain capacity, and they would shape their approach based on this capacity. So how much do you know about the company? When I ask you about uh, your knowledge on where you apply, how many people, for example, work at my company and what we produce? Let's say you're going to apply a company, you go onto their website, and you realize that they are at a great position, great place. They are by the Bosphorus. They have fancy gaming areas. They have beautiful graphics. And you should realize before you apply that what they have done so far, or they may just be exploiting the investors. For example, it may be a recently established company. You could have lower salaries. You could have your insurance made after 2 months. As far as you can, stand by them, for example, but without a salary. Sometimes they offer things that do not involve a salary. For example, they could say, we established a company and we don't offer salaries, we offer partnership. Well, don't go in there. But if you're sure that they're going to produce very well, you can consider that. So it's pointless to choose a company just because they have barista in the workplace. Look into what they produce. There are big companies that produce a lot and produce well. They have beautiful offices, and you can choose them. But there's always a trade-off. You get something, you give up something else. There's no place that you can get all together. You should bear that in mind. What is this team working on? What have they done so far? Are they just focusing on receiving investment without producing anything meaningful, really? Well, if it is a place like that, you just eliminate that company, because in the long run, there's no contribution that they would make. So in the long run, you're not going to win a lot, you're not going to earn a lot. And so before applying a company like that, just take one step backward and think about what they have done so far. Have they received investment, and how they use the investment that they received? These are all very important things. And ask this question: how can I improve myself at this place? Would it contribute to my self-improvement? So these are the things that you should consider before placing the application. So consider that you're writing down your own brief. So have a specific knowledge about the company that you're applying. What are they producing, and do you really want to be a part of that company? So if you don't do that before applying, and if you're just applying because it's a fancy place, well, that would be a great mistake, and you could be evaluated negatively. It's important that you are open and transparent on that issue. And some friends, some applicants, they try and give me responses that they think I'd like to hear. Your responses should be genuine, and they should be specific to you, and you should move accordingly. I'm going to keep it short. I'd like to answer your questions in the long run. So what do we care about in our candidates? We look into knowledge versus potential. A person has been using a similar technology for about 8 years, let's say. That means experience, and somebody else could have a higher potential, and I would go for potential in that case, because if somebody is doing the same work for about 8 years, I think there's an issue with my connection. Yeah, we lost you, but you're okay now. We can hear you. I'm sorry, they are working on the communication infrastructure at Floria. Even super boxes do not work. I'm sorry for that. So we look into this, a person that is doing the same thing for about 8 years, that person may not respond positively to the change, and this is very important for us. So experience versus adaptation. It is important, experience is important, but how fast you adapt to the change is also important. And if you adapt fast, you have your place ready in our workplace. We look into whether there's an enthusiastic demand from the applicant side. Let's say you are a candidate for junior, mid, or senior developer. You want to change your sector. Let's say you're a good coder. But if you didn't look into Unity training, for example.
I'm thinking about this, and I think I'm right in this. For example, you're an artist, and I want a demo from you. Have you ever looked through the game? Have you ever played the game? That's important. Just drawing a prototype is not the game development. Game is a whole, and it is the cross-section of all the arts. It is 2D, 3D animation, it sounds, all the game design elements are integrated within this whole. Do you consider all this? I understand what you want from these answers. What is the company scope? What is their vision and mission? Have you learned them? Or about preparing a demo for the company? Do you complete it in compliance with ethical rules, or do you do all these just to say I have done? Have you really put your efforts? You may apply 3 months later once again if you are refused, because this shows your efforts. when, for example, there is no position, empty position at that moment, but the people really have the potential to achieve something, we give some time to those people, and we do some code reviews, and we really like to spare time for those people, and to demonstrate it, we just publish a training program. You can see it on the internet. A Unity program in Turkish at medium level doesn't exist, and we did it for the first time. And the local candidate may look through it and examine it, which is very important for me. Apart from this, there's nothing else I can say. Your approach, your ethic, your code of conduct are quite important. Please search for the company you're applying to. You need to filter the company, and please do not expect everything from just one company. You cannot achieve everything, or you cannot reach everything from just one point. Therefore, prioritize your expectations. Will the company provide you a good landscape with their office, or will they provide you a good feature and experience? Consider all these. Therefore, considering all these, you will find the correct place for yourself. Now, I am answering the questions one by one. First of all, I want to add some more thing about your subject. I'm also working in the game sector. I'm a game designer. I agree with what you have said, but I have some conflicting points as well. Kaya Genç published an article in September. Have you read his article? No. In Istanbul, the gaming sector grew, but the employees work under bad conditions, he says in the article, and the conditions make us look like India or Pakistan. And here you say to the attendees that the companies may delay your insurance payments. Please do not take it seriously, you say. But this is really conflicting. Saying all these actually causes abuses in the sector. Yes, I respect. Sometimes I am misunderstood. Ulaş Karadeniz is the head engineer of Unity, you know. Even he said similar things in our interview, and we have justifications while saying this. Of course, do not let the others abuse you or exploit you. It is not fair. But if you think that you can improve yourself, you can develop your skills, go and work there. And this is clear. Yes, I agree with you in that point, but there are really exploitation in the sector. For example, there may be a new startup. In the first month, insurance may be delayed, but there are really people who abuse this good intention, unfortunately. So there are studios who make people work without even paying their insurance for months. Okay, I agree. For example, the company owner has smart cars and he lives in luxury, but if he doesn't pay your insurance, this is not good. So leave that company, do not work there. But if there is a new startup who tries to do something, and if that a startup is in somehow financial difficulties in the first month, then you may accept non-payment of your insurance for just for the first month. In the second month, of course, it will be paid. For example, maybe the startup maybe the company is not a newly established one and there are investments from the external resources. Of course, non-payment of the insurance is unacceptable. Yes, I totally agree with you. My concern was that this must be clearly put. So the expectations of the people who are new in the sector may differ. Therefore, I just want you to clarify this. Of course, if there are officers who are really in good condition in a plaza, for example, and they are living in luxury and they have money inflow, then of course they should do your insurance and pay your insurance without delay, and of course pay your salaries. Actually, the Turkish game sector was better, I thought. No, unfortunately, I know from my surroundings that there, and also I met myself with such conditions. Unfortunately, there were some companies who are trying to abuse the newcomers. We can continue with the questions and answers. What are the criteria searched for the interns by the game companies? I do not know. As Vertigo, unfortunately, we do not recruit interns for a long time. Since the beginning of COVID-19, we have suspended recruiting interns, but the basic criteria must be as follows. Interns are the candidate employees, therefore how they work is very important. It's a preliminary step for recruitment. Therefore, internship is very important, and the way you spend your internship is quite important. Tuğberk Baştepe asks, how we can get prepared for the brief exercises of Vertigo Games and other companies. I guess you mentioned about the demos. I already explained it. We want to see whether the person really wants this job and whether the demo is compliant with the genre, with the style of our product portfolio, whether the person will adapt quickly and learn quickly. Burak Altay has another question. I am a university student. I know the game sector. What are your recommendations for me? I think you are a developer for game development. You can also search for the list I broadcasted in my profile. For all the colleagues, for all the teams, in real terms, there is one saying, influential, learning how to learn. You can browse it. We were unable to do it at high school, but during the university times, you can learn how to learn. And you can also continue with interns in the third and fourth grades of university. You can learn how to use the tools, for example, CSL, CS50 list courses can be attended, and game analyst, product manager, what do they do, and you can read some essays on the jobs that these people do. And in the third and fourth grades, you can extend your portfolio and you can prepare yourself to present yourself. For nearly 4 months, I'm pursuing Vertigo games. 5 months ago, I was rejected by you, and my current level was not that good. But I have improved myself, and in the following months, I will be better. I hope that we can keep in contact with you. We are trying to return to you as much as possible. There are many demos, and through these panels, we are trying to keep in touch with you. Tuberg asks, Unity or C#? Which one must be the first to learn? Unity is a game engine, and within Unity, there is a game designer, sound engineer, and an artist, an animator. But C# is an encoding language. We use it within Unity. If this is the question, the basic algorithm skills must be settled. And there is a list I broadcasted. You can follow up that list to be a developer. Okay. Ahmed Fitz, 3D artists are employed in terms of which criteria? Rather than the knowledge level, the 3D artists must be flexible enough to adapt quickly. For example, Substance Painter, learning any tool. What does he or she think about Unity? So a development tool and development tools do not only advise to the developers, but also to the artists. These are important. And whether the person will meet the requirements of the position or not. And also for all the job positions, does the person know our company well? And what is our field of activity? They shall be well known. Alijan asks, for a game analyst position, what are the criteria you're looking for? For example, a game analyst must play the game very well in detail. If he or she says that I watched the video of the game, then that person will be eliminated because the game must be tried, must be felt by that person. But if if he or she is a good analyst, then of course the game must be felt in detail, tried in the app. And also analytical thinking is an important skill, and have good knowledge of mobile games for our company, of course. And he or she may be a good gamer, but does he or she really engage in the game? Both from the production side and from the player side, gamer side, these must be integrated. Anyway, I'm in Konya. I completed the courses on Unity development. I am a university student in Konya. How can I take myself to an upper position in Konya? Very good. You want to take yourself to an upper level in Konya. You can apply for the companies working remotely, or you can move to another city. If there is not such a company in Konya, You can work remotely or you can move to another city. There may be some companies who provide package support for you. Unity development trainings have been completed and I'm trying to improve myself with other games, but I am not from a software developer background. Therefore, what are your recommendations for me? You can eliminate your CV and portfolio from the non-sectorial elements. And if you have completed those trainings, you can highlight them in your curriculum vitae. And please do not transfer that you are the perception that you are out of the sector. Melike asks. I want to be a game developer, and I follow up you in LinkedIn and your portfolio, and I want to work in an environment where I do not just work but also explain my ideas about the projects. Do you have ideas as a game developer? I mean, you know, you want to adopt a new technology as a game development, or you want to provide game design ideas. If it is the second one, in real terms, you may deviate from your focus because it is not welcomed by the sector. And this requires focusing on something else than your position. But adopting a new technology, a new technique in the game development, adding a new tool, these are already our expectations. But of course, even if we are not game designer, we provide feedbacks about the games. But of course, it's important to proceed in our own fields. Is hyper-casual only established on earning money? Yes, hyper-casual is a sector where we make good money, but it is gradually transferring to need core. All the sectors are money earning based, in my opinion. Mohammed asks, I am a student at molecular biology and genetics. I want to work in the gaming sector and I have been studying C# and Unity. What do you think in the last grades? Can I leave my department and continue with gaming? If I were you, I would take the risk, but I do not recommend. My brother left 2 university departments and I also left my PhD. So you yourself can answer this question, not the others. If I were in your shoes, I would leave the department and continue with the gaming sector, but you are the one to decide. Turberg asks, how can we identify the companies who are just trying to trap the investors? First, you should search about the founder of the company, whether that founder has a meaningful or significant product in the market, and is there an ongoing project or working game, or is he or she in the sector for 15 years but there is no concrete product, but the person tries to get the investments or incentives from the government or other external investors. Iram has two questions. I am a student. I want to develop myself, improve myself as a game developer. Shall I be an intern and actively? And the second question, why to work without insurance? Please forget about about working without insurance. What I tried to say there was very clear, I guess. Yes, you already explained it. Please do not do the lynch. About internship, yes. An intern may adapt to the working conditions and learn very well. During the pandemic period, everyone worked remotely and there was no office area used. And under such conditions, internship was of no use. But you can undergo some trainings. You can get some freelance works which will help you improve yourself and will be more motivating. We have last 2 minutes. There are 5 questions. You select 2 of them, please. There is a question about my earning money. Was your motivation money in leaving pharmacy and continue with gaming? No, it was not about money. Actually, I'm a free person, and gaming sector provided that free environment for me. If I wanted to make good money, I would continue with being a pharmacist. And there's an anonymous question. What are your perspective about a developer who doesn't use Unity and Gene, but active in the sector for a long time? If he or she is a senior developer, then adapting oneself to other engines will be easy. So flexibility is important here, briefly. And if experienced enough, he or she can, of course, adapt to the new tools quickly. Thank you very much for your participation. And see you.